Welcome to a new case. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and come back for a new real case. Thanks for watching. The name Home Depot is familiar to almost everyone. Known as the world's largest home improvement retailer, it operates more than 2,300 locations across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, selling everything from tools and building materials to products for repairs, renovations, and remodeling. But for the Bromfield family, the name Home Depot carries a much darker meaning. It is forever tied to the devastating day when their 21-year-old pregnant daughter, Alicia Bromfield, was found dead in a Wisconsin hotel room on August 19, 2012. A tragedy that should never have happened. A tragedy that claimed both her life and the life of her unborn child, all because of one man's obsession. Alicia was born on August 28, 1990, in Joliet, Illinois, to Sherry and James Bromfield. She grew up with her sister, Brianna, and brothers Luke, Chase, and Colton. Family and friends remember her as joyful, active, and full of life. She was especially close to her mother and grandmother, who were her constant sources of love and guidance. When her grandmother passed away, Alicia was heartbroken. The loss left a lasting void in her life. Despite her grief, Alicia's bright personality and optimism never faded. She loved the outdoors, thrived in school, and was the kind of person who brought joy to everyone around her. She attended Joliet Catholic Academy, graduating in 2008, before pursuing a degree in criminal justice and forensic psychology at Western Illinois University. Her bond with her mother grew even stronger after her parents divorced, as she spent most of her childhood with Sherry. Later, when her mother remarried, Alicia welcomed the change with open arms, happy to see her mom find love again and to be part of a bigger family. Deep down, Alicia dreamed of one day having a family of her own. She often said she was meant to be a mother. At just 16, Alicia began working at Grand Flower Growers, creating flower arrangements that were sold at a nearby Home Depot. She loved the work. It allowed her to balance her studies with a steady income while expressing her creativity. Unlike many teenage jobs, this one paid well and provided stability even during the off-season, something Alicia appreciated deeply. But what should have been a positive experience became increasingly difficult because of her boss, Brian Cooper. At 35 years old, Cooper fixated on Alicia almost as soon as she started working for him. What began as casual workplace conversations quickly shifted into something more disturbing. Cooper pressured Alicia for a personal relationship, but she repeatedly rejected him. She was a teenager, just 16, while he was a grown man, nearly twice her age. His persistence made her deeply uncomfortable. Alicia did her best to ignore his advances, but it was impossible to escape the awkward reality of having to work under the authority of someone who refused to respect her boundaries. As someone who saw and talked to Brian every day, Alicia found herself in a tough spot. Also, Alicia didn't just quit her job without thinking about it. She was having a hard time in school and needed the money. The job paid well, so she didn't see why she should give it all up for a creepy boss. Brian kept pursuing Alicia and was very pushy, but it's important to know that Alicia never responded. Brian didn't seem to get the message when she tried to keep things professional. To be fair, Alicia wasn't stupid. She wouldn't let her boss bother her. A number of times, she told the company that Brian was rude and inappropriate. Alicia said that Brian would call her rude names if she turned down Brian or if he saw her talking to someone else. Brian was a terrible person who couldn't handle being turned down by a woman. Instead, each time he got angry with words. Because Brian was such a bad boss, he also didn't give Alicia lunch breaks and made her work long hours just to tease her and show her who was in charge. It drives me crazy to see Brian take advantage of his power as a boss or supervisor just because Alicia didn't want to be his girlfriend. What about girlfriends? Brian would also tell other workers that Alicia was his girlfriend and that they were going out when it was clear they weren't, making up lies about himself. And Alicia made Brian happy in some way. Do I need to say again that this was a middle-aged man and not a high school student? Anyway, Alicia was getting tired of everything. She was trying to study, live her life, and do her job at the same time. But Brian couldn't stop thinking about Alicia. I really don't want to say this, but this went on for 5 years. That's right, 5 whole years. Before the case, Alicia had worked at Grand Flower Growers for 5 years and was in college. She was 21 years old at the time. She did not quit her job, and even though she complained several times, Brian did not get in trouble. He was still the annoying and stalkerish guy trying to get Alicia to go out with him. Alicia really believed that his feelings for her would fade, but it was clear that wasn't going to happen. Things only got worse and more intense. Anyway, early in 2012, Alicia got some good news that she hadn't expected. She was having a baby. Thankfully, the father wasn't Brian. Instead, it was a guy who went to the same college as Alicia, but didn't want to be involved with the child's life. While Alicia was upset that the baby's father didn't want to be a part of their lives, she couldn't hold back her joy when she found out she was pregnant. Even though Alicia was thrilled to be pregnant, she couldn't quit her job just yet. She would need a lot of money to support herself, her baby, and college. After a few months, Alicia found out she was going to have a girl. She had already named her Ava Lucille. I'm sure most pregnant women feel an undeniable bond with their unborn child. And Alicia was just counting down the days until she met her little self. But Brian was the one who woke Alicia up from her happy pregnancy haze. Even though he knew Alicia was pregnant, he didn't give up. Brian was even more of a boss than usual. Even though Alicia was pregnant and had to go to doctor's appointments and ultrasound scans, he would always make her work extra hours, change her shifts without warning, and even threaten to fire her if she missed even one day of work. He kept trying to get close to her, and even when she turned him down, he didn't care. It got so bad that Brian made Alicia do things for him, like walking his dog. Brian would say he would fire Alicia if she said no. He knew how to get Alicia to do what he wanted. Since Alicia needed the money more than ever and was only a few months away from giving birth, she couldn't quit her job. He took advantage of her anger. Brian was getting more and more angry that the complaints against him were not being taken seriously. He was sure that he could make Alicia do anything he wanted and not get in trouble. For Brian's part, upper management only told him to leave work early so that he wouldn't have to deal with Alicia as much, and told him to take anger management classes, which he obviously didn't do. Alicia was sick and tired of this behavior, and she told her mom about everyone. She was good and did everything right. And no, she didn't quit her job because of Brian. But she did complain about him to higher-ups and thought they would take care of it. I'm afraid that won't be the case. Now it's August 2012, and Brian told Alicia that she had to go to his sister's wedding with him. He must have needed a +1, and what better way to bother Alicia than to make her go with him? She told him straight out that she didn't want to go with him. What did Brian do? Did he leave Alicia alone? Of course not. Another time, he told her that he would fire her if she didn't do what he said. This threat put Alicia in a tough spot right away. She had to do or die in this case. Either she and her creepy boss got along after the wedding, or she would lose her job forever and have to work hard the last few weeks of her pregnancy to find a new one. When Alicia told her mum, Sherry, about what happened, she told her right away to not go and just quit her job. But here's the thing. Brian told her that there was no need to worry because the whole wedding party would be staying at the same hotel as Brian and Alicia. Brian wouldn't be mean to Alicia and would behave himself. He was just being a friend and taking her to his sister's wedding. This information was kind of reassuring for both Alicia and Sherry. In the end, Alicia agreed to go with Brian, even though she made it very clear that she was only going as a friend. One of the main reasons she agreed was so she wouldn't be at the hotel by herself with that creep. Because she felt safe, she would tell a family member. Brian was over the moon when Alicia said yes, and on August 18th, they left for Wisconsin for the wedding. They were going to Sand Bay Beach Resort, and Alicia thought that the whole Cooper family would be there. That's not at all true. Alicia and Brian were staying at a different hotel than everyone else from the wedding. When they got there, they were greeted by all of their guests, which was the first surprise of the day. As soon as Alicia realized she had no idea where the other guests were staying, she became very scared and angry. Sherry said the same day that Alicia texted her to say that she and Brian had a fight and that they were going home right away. It seemed impossible for them to leave the wedding, since Brian was supposed to walk his sister down the aisle. This made Sherry think. Not long after that, though, Alicia sent Sherry a text message saying that she and Brian were okay now and would be at the wedding. I know what's going through your mind about true crimes now. There is no way that this message came from Alicia. It could have been Brian texting from Alicia's phone, but it was really Alicia. She did go to the wedding with Brian in the end, and they even got a picture together. Even though they looked happy together, no one knew that Brian was back at it again, making Alicia date him. Alicia had enough of everything at this point. She wasn't interested and was tired of it all. Being with this creepy man, who was also her boss, was just not something she wanted. The conversation ended when Alicia said she was done. She wasn't going to be friends with them professionally after the wedding was over and they got back to Illinois. Is it your fault? Alana finally had enough of Brian's bothering her after 5 years. She couldn't just leave, though. Brian drove her to Wisconsin, and she needed him to take her back after the wedding. This made Brian mad at Alicia. He finally got it that Alicia would no longer put up with his behavior and that he would no longer be able to chase her and bother her. Brian did leave her alone, but he was grumpy and angry the whole night, and to make things worse, he was drinking. The wedding was over, and Alicia and Brian went back to the hotel. Their beds were different, but they were in the same room. As if that would make Alicia feel safer. Brian probably made her share a room with him. Alicia would do anything to avoid being alone with this creep for another minute. She was now gone for good. She was on her feet all day and had to deal with Brian's antics. She was almost 7 months pregnant and just wanted to sleep. It was also going to be the next day for Alicia and Brian to leave, and she was just counting down the minutes to get back to Illinois. But did Brian feel the same way? Not at all. He was scared about the next day. He was angry because he knew this was the last time he would bother or control Alicia. And he was so mad at Alicia for turning him down, not responding to his advances, and pushing him away. Sadly, this would lead to a scary ending. He sat down on the couch with a drink and watched Alicia sleep for almost 2 hours. He finally woke Alicia up and asked her to go on a date one last time. It was when Alicia said no that Brian lost control of his anger. No was the last word Alicia spoke before her sad and unavoidable death. Brian didn't wait even a second before he jumped at Alicia. She woke up, clearly startled, but Brian wouldn't stop. He was ready to use his bare hands to kill Alicia. Alicia tried hard to breathe and even begged Brian to save her baby's life. But it didn't help. and Brian was able to kill Alicia. He killed not only the thing that was making him crazy, but also the unborn child in Alicia's womb, which is so horrible and cruel. I have no idea what Alicia must have been going through in her last moments. While she was getting ready to go home in a few hours, she and her unborn child, Ava, were being viciously abused by a man who wouldn't give up. Alicia's murder was bad enough, but Brian then took advantage of her after she died and even took pictures of her dead body, which is so creepy and disgusting. It's heartbreaking and unbelievable to think that Alicia was put down like that after she died. But Brian passed out in the bathtub after the horrible attack on Alicia. Brian thought about taking the easy way out to avoid the law the next morning. In the end, he decided to tell the police about the incident because he had tried to kill himself by drowning but failed. To do that, he walked into a nearby gas station while drenched in sweat. Everyone was shocked and staring at him. The customer asked the cashier if he could call 911 to report a murder. When the operator asked Brian who killed the man, he calmly said, "It was me. I did it." The police quickly got to the convenience store, arrested Brian there and then, and took him to the police station. During an interview there, Brian told them everything, but he said that he and Alicia were dating and that he wanted to be with her only, but Alicia didn't want that. He even told her that he didn't pursue her because she was pregnant with someone else's child, which is a complete lie. The only thing Brian said that was true was that he killed Alicia, and by extension, her unborn child, because she didn't want anything to do with him anymore. At the same time, a group of police officers went to Sand Bay Resort. They were horrified as soon as they walked into Brian and Alicia's room. There was no life in Alicia. She was lying in bed with a sheet over her body and a pillow under her head. This is what Brian did before he left the room. Now, the police had to tell Alicia's family that she and her baby had died in a terrible accident. When the police came to see Sherry, she knew right away that something was wrong. Sherry got the news that Alicia had died and that the police were looking into a murder. This is when she lost it completely. The hurt and grief she felt filled her whole body, and then those feelings turned into guilt. Shelley felt like she hadn't done enough as a mom to keep her child safe. She felt like she didn't do enough to keep Alicia safe from this creep who turned into a killer. Some of her feelings were so complicated that I don't think there are words to describe them. Seeing her like this, so helpless, so desperate, and just crushed by this terrible loss, was so heartbreaking for everyone around her. The police learned more about Brian's past while he was in jail, and what they found was very scary. First, Alicia wasn't the only woman who worked there who was being harassed. Brian touched another woman inappropriately, and she was so disgusted that she quit her job and filed a complaint against him. Brian's dating history was also very sketchy. At one point, he even held down an ex-girlfriend because she wouldn't listen. The police also found stacks and stacks of complaints that Alicia had made against Brian. It didn't take them long to figure out that those in charge of the company did nothing to punish or reprimand Brian. He also had several hidden cameras in his home and even in his hotel room, which is another very disturbing and disgusting thing he did. You may remember that Brian made Alicia walk his dog and gave her the key to his house as payment. When Alicia dropped off the dog and went to the bathroom on her way out, she had no idea that Brian was recording her in secret. He even taped her in the bathroom of the hotel, which is even more of an invasion of privacy. This man had no idea what boundaries or privacy were, and he wanted to hurt Alicia no matter what. That's why the police took Brian to court right away. Even though he admitted to killing Alicia on the phone and on video, Brian pleaded not guilty. His DNA was found on Alicia's body and in the room as a whole. Brian's defense was that he was drunk on purpose. The defense said that Brian killed the man while drunk, so the bottle of alcohol, not Brian's crazy and dark urges, was to blame for everything. The Bromfield family had to sit through a very painful trial, and the prosecution worked hard to brush off his claim that he was drunk. The government says Brian was mentally stable enough to remember everything he did, think about committing suicide, and then admit to killing the man. Brian was also said to have already planned to hurt Alicia at the wedding, so this defense didn't make any sense. But when the trial was over, the jury couldn't agree on what to do. But a year later, there was a second trial, and the same arguments were made. The jury finally came to a decision this time. Brian was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, one for Alicia and one for her unborn child. 2 years after the terrible attack on Alicia, on July 24, 2014, Brian was given 2 life sentences. He is locked up at the Wisconsin Dodge Correctional Institution. It used to be called Central State Hospital for the criminally insane, but now it is a maximum security prison. Jeffrey Dahmer, Ed Gein, and a number of other well-known serial killers were locked up in the same prison. One of Chris Watts's 3 life sentences is also being served here. He killed his pregnant wife and 2 daughters for another woman. Now we know for sure that Brian will not be seen again anytime soon. The deaths of Alicia and Ava were terrible for the Bromfield family. Sherry has said that all she felt toward Brian was anger, and that anger took over all of her thoughts. But after the funeral for Alicia and Ava on August 25, 2012, Sherry chose to use her anger to do something that would help people remember Alicia in the best way possible. She did this, and the Purple Project was born. It was in every way Alicia's last gift. She loved the color purple, and the project's goal was to help single mums with money, which was something Alicia needed. That's why she couldn't quit her job and her awful boss. The project also offers programs to help parents who have lost a child deal with their grief. The Purple Project also puts together events like the Grief Retreat and the Night of Hope, which was held in honor of Alicia's life on the 12th anniversary of her death. When we talk about work, Sherry also sued Home Depot and Grand Flower Growers for wrongful death because they didn't listen to Alicia's complaints and let Brian get away with everything. In the end, the companies were blamed for the deaths of Alicia and baby Ava. Our hearts go out to Alicia's family as they deal with this sudden and terrible loss. Alicia and Ava had so much to look forward to in life, but it was all taken away in an instant. It's simple to say, quit your job, but it's not always that simple. Harassment at work happens all the time, which is scary. There are monsters out there who can take advantage of people's weakness and power, just like Brian did with Alicia. Many workplaces try to keep things healthy, but some people still do harmful things. Guys, don't let yourself turn into a real-life crime story. If this sounds at all like something that could happen to you, you need to get out of there. You and Alicia were both worth a lot more than this. That brings us to the end of today's true crime story. If you're fascinated by cases like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts below. And until next time, stay safe and keep uncovering the truth.